That very night, Mama Esther woke everybody up. She didn't come to play. It was time for prayers. She called everybody. Her voice was strong and clear in the quiet house. Paul rubbed his eyes. In the quiet town of Ohimini lived a man named Paul. Paul was a kind and faithful trader. He lived in a small one-room house that barely had space for a bed and a table. But Paul's heart was big, full of hope and trust in God. Every morning, before the sun even touched the sky, Paul would kneel down and pray, "Dear God, please bless my small business. Help me work hard and give me wisdom," he would say quietly. Then he would get ready for the day. Paul loved his church. Oh, every Sunday, he would wear his clean, simple shirt and walk to church with a smile. At church, he joined a special prayer group called the Prayer Warriors of Elroy. They prayed together with passion and belief, asking God to help their families and, of course, the whole town. Paul's business was small at first. He sold things like yam, beans, and other foodstuff at the market. He always greeted his customers warmly, and he prayed for good sales always. Then slowly his business began to grow. He saved every little money he earned, dreaming for a better future. And then he met Esther. Esther was a sweet woman from the same church. She wasn't as strong in prayer as Paul, but she loved to sing softly in the church choir, and she smiled at everyone. Esther was gentle and kind. She had very beautiful eyes as well. Before long, Paul and Esther became friends. They shared stories, dreams about their future and everything. So one Sunday, after church, Paul asked Esther if she would marry him. Her face lit up with happiness, and she said, "Yes, Paul, I will marry you." Their wedding was simple, but it was full of joy. Family and friends gathered around them in the small church. The pastor prayed for their love and for God's blessings on their marriage. Paul held Esther's hand tightly as they promised to care and love each other forever. After the ceremony, they went home. Their little one-room house waited for them. But though it was simple, it was filled with hope. Inside their home, they talked about many things, but most especially, they talked about their dreams. Paul said, "One day I will build a bigger home, a place where our children can run around and play." Esther smiled and said, "Yes, Paul, God will help us." At night, under the dim light of a small lamp, Esther and Paul will kneel down side by side and pray together. Sometimes their prayers were not perfect, but they felt close to God. One night, Esther whispered, "Paul, I want to pray like you someday. You make it look so easy." Paul smiled and said, "Prayer grows little by little, like a small seed. You just need to take care of it every day. Water it." Their life was simple, but full of love and faith. In their small house in Ohimini, Paul and Esther's story was just beginning. Not long after their wedding, a joyful surprise came to Paul and Esther. Esther was going to have a baby. Their small one-room house suddenly felt even smaller. The little space that once held 2 people was now going to hold 3. One evening, while they sat quietly, Esther placed her hand gently on her growing belly. "Paul," she said, "our family is growing. We need more space." Paul smiled, his eyes shining with hope. "Yes, my dear, God will provide." In Ohimini, whenever a woman is about to give birth, tradition requires that her mother comes to stay with her to help out. This time, Esther's mother, Mama Esther, was going to stay with them for a while to help care for Esther and the baby after birth. It was called Omugo, a special time of care and love. Mama Esther was known as a fierce and strong prayer warrior. She didn't just pray, she prayed like a lioness, protecting her cubs. Every night, she would wake up and pray loudly. Sometimes she would sing and sing, calling on God to bless her family. When Paul heard Mama Esther was coming, he was happy, but he was a little nervous. Mama Esther means business, he joked to his neighbor Brian one morning. She prays like thunder. And she does it every single night. But that's not even my main headache, Sha. I'm looking for a new apartment, and you know how hard it is to find a place in this town. My room cannot contain all of us again. We need more space as soon as possible. Brian smiled and said, "Oh, yeah, you are in luck. My neighbor just moved last week, and his apartment is free. You know, the first floor now is a 2-story building. The first floor is free, and it's a 3-bedroom apartment, a big parlor and plenty of space. Perfect for your growing family." Wow, are you serious? That sounds like a dream. How much is the rent? That's just 300,000 naira for a year, Brian said. Paul didn't hesitate at all. That's a steal compared to what rent is nowadays. I'll take it too. Brian then took him to the landlord and he paid the rent right away, excited for the bigger space. When the day came for them to move, Paul, Esther and Mama Esther packed all their things and stepped into the new flat. The house was beautiful, it was fresh, and it was so much bigger than their tiny one-room apartments. The walls were white and clean. The floor was shiny and smooth, and the windows let in plenty of air and sunlight. Paul's heart swelled with pride. "This is the start of something new," he said, smiling at Esther. But moving, as expected, was very stressful for them. Within a few days, though, they were able to settle in completely. Mama Esther commenced her nightly prayers almost immediately. She walked through every room, touching the walls, windows, and doors. "This house will be a place of peace," she declared, lifting her hands to the sky. "No evil will enter here. God's blessings will fill this home." She spent nights and nights waking everyone for prayers, and in the mornings, she reminded them to stay strong in faith. Paul and Esther felt warm and safe under Mama Esther's care and prayers. The new house was not just bigger in size, it also represented a bigger hope, faith, and love. Life seemed to be going so well for Paul and Esther after they moved into the big and beautiful house. Paul even bought a very shiny red car to help his small family with mobility. The car was red and it sparkled under the sun like a bright ruby. Paul was proud and hopeful, imagining how the car would make their lives so much easier. "No more boarding the bus or tricycle with a newborn baby," Esther said, very excitedly. But then, soon, without signs or warnings, things started to go wrong. One morning, Paul woke up with a big idea for his business. Today is going to be a good day. I have this very sharp idea that I'm going to seal today. Yes, by God's grace, I'm going to seal this deal today. But surprisingly, when he got to his shop, the idea seemed to disappear from his mind like smoke in the wind, just like that. And no matter how hard he tried to remember, it was gone. Days passed and his business began to fail. Customers stopped coming. Deals that seemed sure fell apart at the last minute. Paul would sit in his shop, staring at empty shelves and feeling the weight of silence pressing down on him. He could not understand what was happening. He would sit from morning till night without making any sale. One evening, Esther looked worried, and as she watched Deborah, her daughter, go to bed hungry because there was no food in the house, she said, "What are we going to do, Paul? This is getting too much." Paul's heart ached, but he had no answers. The money they once saved was slowly vanishing like water in a basket. Paul stopped going to church as often. The prayers he once loved felt very heavy and far-fetched. Some nights, he lay awake, feeling lost, frustrated, and exhausted. Esther felt discouraged as well. The bright light in her eyes dimmed as she watched their struggles. Even Mama Esther, who had prayed night after night, began to feel her prayers were not enough. After a few months, the Omogo came to an end, and it was time for Mama Esther to leave. "You must trust God's timing no matter what," she said to Esther and her husband. "Keep praying. He will visit you people soon. I will always put you in my own prayers from my end. Okay?" When Mama Esther left, the house felt quieter and the issue even weighed heavier. Paul and Esther's marriage began to strain under the weight of worry, and they began to argue over everything: money, faith, about what went wrong. They just couldn't agree on one thing. As time went on, they couldn't even boast of 3 healthy square meals daily. It was that bad. Paul was almost thrown out of his shop for owing shop rent. In fact, they started feeding on the goods from his shop because customers were not coming at all. It was just a lot. Esther almost fell into depression. Having to care for a baby, breastfeed a baby without feeding well herself. It was really taking a toll on her. This kept happening for over 2 long years. The couple sank deeper and deeper in debts and financial crisis. They forgot how to pray, feeling frustrated and angry every day. And then, after 2 long years of struggle, a new hope began to grow in Paul and Esther's home. Esther was pregnant again. The whole 9 months were filled with worry for her. How were they going to cope? Things were not looking any brighter. They're going to be bringing another baby into the family, which meant more expenses. And then before long, the 9 months waiting period had passed. And this time, Esther gave birth to a baby boy whom they named Greatness, because they strongly believed that he was going to bring greatness back into their family. When Mama Esther heard the news, of course she didn't hesitate to pack her bags immediately and transport herself to their house to help with the omogo, the special time when a mother comes to help her child take care of her baby. The house seemed brighter and happier after she arrived. That very night, Mama Esther woke everybody up. She didn't come to play. It was time for prayers. She called everybody. Her voice was strong and clear in the quiet house. Paul rubbed his eyes. "Ugh, here we go again," he whispered. Esther could relate, but they knew they needed someone to help pull their faith up. Because to be honest, it was dampened. Mama Esther led them in prayers, her voice rising with power and love and authority. "We will fight with prayers," she declared. The family gathered around, heads bowed, hands clasped tightly. And this is how we win our battles: through prayers, through fasting, We shouldn't relent. At first, Paul felt a little tired, missing the old days when faith was easy and full of joy. But slowly, with every prayer, every night, he felt the heavy weight on his heart begin to lift. One morning, after prayers, Paul said, "Esther, I want to go back to church, to the prayer group that I belong to. I want to feel that peace again. I didn't realize I have been away for this long. God have mercy on me." Esther smiled. "Me too. We need this for us, for our family." Wow, that's an amazing plan. Our God is faithful. He will hear us. Don't worry, we'll smile again, Mama Esther added. Days turned into weeks, and the family became closer than ever. They prayed early in the morning, at midnight, and sometimes even in the middle of the day. They fasted 4 times out of 7 every week. Their home, that was once filled with silence and sadness, was now alive with hope. One night, as they were praying, Mama Esther stopped for a while. "I have had a vision," she said, amazed at the instructions God gave her. "In the vision, God told me to give Paul a white handkerchief. He must be taken to the pastor at church for prayers and blessings. It will be a mantle, a powerful blessing for our home and our businesses." And so she went inside and brought a white handkerchief that she had in her bag, and she gave it to Paul. The next Sunday, dressed in his church attire, Paul took the white handkerchief to church. At church, he took it to the pastor, who smiled warmly as he collected it. "This mantle will carry God's power. It will carry the hand of God," the pastor said, firing prayers over the handkerchief. When he was done praying, he handed it over to Paul. Paul left the church feeling lighter than he had in years. That particular day, Paul returned home from church with the white mantle of prayers folded carefully in his pocket. His heart was full of hope, but it was mixed with a little anxiety. Somewhere in his heart, he was certain that God was about to do something huge in his home. As he stepped inside the house, he sat down for a while. He said some prayers, asking God to show himself mighty and to fulfill his words in his life. After that, he slowly took out the mantle and he began the task Mama Esther had given him. He started to dust every door, every window, and every piece of furniture with the handkerchief. He tapped the mantle gently on the front door, whispering, "Let your power cover this home, Lord. Let your power cover this home." He moved from room to room, hitting every spot carefully. The kitchen, the windows, the chairs, the living room sofa. He touched all of them with the mantle, while still praying fervently. And just like that, with every step, Paul started to feel a certain kind of weight lifted from his spirit. Finally, he reached the bedroom. He raised the handkerchief and hit it on the bed. His bed, where he and Esther rested, where dreams were born. Bam, 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 he hit. And suddenly, the quiet was broken by a loud and clear "Kokoroko." Paul froze. His eyes were wide with shock. "Wait, what was that?" he whispered, his heart almost escaping his body. He looked under the bed. Nothing. He looked again. Then, out of nowhere, a huge bird shot out from beneath the bed like a wild whirlwind. A chicken so big and wild it looked like a turkey in disguise. The chicken flapped its enormous wings, knocking over a lamp and sending papers flying everywhere. Paul stumbled backwards, nearly tripping over his own feet. Ah! What kind of spirit is this? The noise brought Esther and Mama Esther running from the kitchen, their faces mixed with shock and fear. What is happening here? Esther asked anxiously. Mama Esther quickly grabbed the mantle from Paul. This is no time to stand around. We will fight the spirit with prayers. And then, together, they circled the room, praying fiercely and hitting the chicken on the head with the handkerchief. With every Holy Ghost fire came a hit with the hanky. The chicken tried to escape, flapping wildly towards the door, crying and shouting, but the family blocked the way. Not so fast, you evil spirit! Holy Ghost fire! Mama Esther shouted, hitting the bird squarely on the head with the mantle. And then, suddenly, a loud cry came from the top floor. It was raw, desperate, and it was like a man fighting for his soul. The family froze, exchanging worried glances. And almost immediately, they all raced up to the flat upstairs with their hearts pounding. They burst into the landlord's room to find him on the floor, his voice trembling. Sweat drenched his clothes, and his eyes were wild, filled with panic and pain. His lips shook as he tried to speak, but he was barely able to. Mama Esther stepped forward. With a very stern voice, she said, "Speak now, you evil spirit. Speak. Confess the evil you have done." At this point, the landlord was struggling to catch his breath. I will confess, oh, I will confess. "I am the cause of your suffering," he said, clutching the bedpost like it was his last anchor. "For years, I have cursed your business. I have stolen your ideas, and I have snatched your blessings." Eh? Paul's eyes widened. "But how? What have you done?" The landlord's face twisted with agony and pain. "I am not just any man. I am bound to a spirit that feeds on your success. When you sleep, I turn into a chicken, an evil chicken that sneaks under your bed. I peck at your ideas and your dreams. Every good idea that you have, I snatch it away before it grows." Esther stepped closer, trembling. "But why? Why destroy us? All we have ever done is to be nice to you. What have we done to deserve such an evil torment from you, sir? What have we ever done to you?" The landlord's eyes were filled with tears of fury. "Because I am jealous. I am jealous of your faith. I am jealous of your hope. I just don't like your spirit. Your prayers were a disturbance to me and my occultic group. And you could have defeated me before. But the moment you stopped praying, you forgot God, and I took hold." He groaned, clutching his head as if the pain was tearing him apart from inside out. "I tied your hands. Yes, I cast spells on your accounts. I spread confusion in your mind. Every time you thought of a way forward, it vanished like smoke." And then Mama Esther stepped forward. She lifted the mantle, her eyes blazing with fire. "Your time is over. The power of God breaks every chain." She pressed the white hanky onto his chest, and the landlord screamed, his voice echoing, his body convulsed uncontrollably. Sweat was pouring from him. Tears were streaming down his eyes. Paul and Esther stood firm, holding hands and praying fervently. And then slowly, the man's convulsions subsided. His shoulders slumped in defeat, and with a final trembling breath, he gave up the ghost. The room felt lighter, as if a heavy cloud was lifted. Paul knelt beside the fallen man. His heart was racing at the surreal drama that just played out before them. But above all, their battle was won. Mama Esther shouted, "Praise the Lord! The spirit is broken. The Lord has finally done it. He has made a name for himself, for there is no peace for the wicked." After the landlord's confession and passing, life slowly began to change for Paul and his family. It was as if the dark cloud that had hung over their home had finally been lifted, letting the sunshine in. And with the sun came hope. From that day onwards, peace began to return to their home. And in less than 24 hours, the business deal Paul had been chasing for over 2 years clicked. He got a call to sign some papers, and just like that, his businesses slowly grew stronger and brighter than before. The siege was broken. Customers started returning. He began to sign big deals. He signed a deal to start exporting food items internationally for a big African store in the US. And his shop buzzed with activities day in, day out. The money that had vanished overnight now flowed steadily like a rushing tap. One bright Sunday morning, the church was alive with music, dancing, and joy. Paul and Esther, dressed in their best clothes, stood at the front with Mama Esther beside them. They were about to share their testimony with the church. The congregation were eager to hear their story. Paul took a deep breath and began. "My brothers and sisters, we stand before you today to give all thanks to God. 2 years ago, our lives were filled with trouble. Our business failed, hope faded, and fear crept into our hearts. But through prayer, faith, and the power of God, we were restored. There was a time I thought hard work alone could bring success. But I learned the hard way. It's not just work, it's faith. You must guard your blessings with prayer and never take God for granted." Esther nodded before adding, "And never move into a new place without praying over it. Spirits are territorial, and so we need to take charge and invite our own spirit, which is the Holy Spirit, into our spaces before we move in. We all need to be very prayerful as well, praying without ceasing, so that the devil will not see any crack to slip through." The pastor nodded, smiling warmly. "That's the power of faith," he said. As they spoke, the congregation murmured their agreements, some wiping tears, some nodding with understanding. Their story touched many people. That day, many people went home with renewed hope and faith that God will soon remember their case. With their finances restored maximally, Paul and Esther began building their own home. It was a small bungalow at the outskirts of Ohimini, a home filled with hope, laughter, and prayer. The day they moved out of the cursed flat, Paul paused at the doorway one last time and said, "Goodbye, old troubles." And then they walked into their new home, hand in hand, stepping into a future that was so bright. Their story spread through the church and the town, and not as a tale of misfortune, but as a beacon of hope. They reminded everyone that no matter how dark the night is, the morning always comes. And with prayer, faith, and perseverance, restoration is possible. Relaxing in their new home one day, Paul muttered to himself, "Never again will I neglect the power of prayer. No blessing is worth losing because of pride or forgetfulness." Moral lessons. Paul's story reminds us of of the power and necessity of prayer in every season of our life. As the Bible encourages us in 1 Thessalonians 5:17, pray without ceasing. This means prayer is not just for emergencies or special moments, but a constant conversation with our God. So, I want to encourage you today to never take your blessings for granted or think you can walk through life without God's hand guiding you. Faith isn't a one-time event, it's a lifelong journey. Guard your home, your heart, and your work with prayer. And when challenges come, as they will, remember that perseverance, prayer, and trust in God's timing will always lead to restoration and peace. Also, do not move to a new space without praying. That is very, very important. Be it a shop, a house, an office, whatever. Always pray, bringing your own altar into that space before you move in. Okay, Naya Padis, we have come to the end of today's story. Hope you enjoyed this one, Sha. If you did, give me a thumbs up because me self try. Also, drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I love to read from you all. And please subscribe. Share this video to everyone you know because this is a life hack. Thank you all so much for watching my videos till the end. You are the real MVP paddy. Remember, don't let anyone dim your shine. Until next time, Ngwanu, bye.